everyone, it's Shane Conto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Cinematic Wasteland here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is my monthly show where my co-guests, host here, we got Adam and Luke,
Then
and we're all sick boys this month. So
Hello.
if we all sound like we're a little out
hello.
of it, we are.
Mm.
So
Yes.
enjoy. So this might be partial fever dream. I don't know. Am I awake?
We'll
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 find
find
out.
out on the re-listen.
Is anybody truly awake, Shane?
Well, they want us all to be asleep
Ooh, who
because
is
they
they?
don't want us to be woke.
Who is they? Let's start with that conversation. Who
Who
is
is
they?
they? The government?
The money behind all governments is it
Ooh,
Oh,
capitalism?
the Rothschilds.
Illuminati.
I'm partially blaming Australia because of the Murdochs. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but anyway, there's our fever dream conspiracy theories for the episode. But this is our show where each month we pick a film from a specific year. And we have a few other things we talk about, like some film history, box office, and the Academy Awards. And this is 1929, so we're wrapping up the 20s, which exciting that we'll be starting the 30s next episode. And most likely, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and probably say we're not going to do any more silent films. And it's interesting to be diving into seeing how film had wrapped up in the 1920s. So let's get started. So, 1929, the first Academy Award winners were announced on the back page of the organization's bulletin 3 months before being officially awarded. 12
Hmm.
award statuettes were quickly presented by Academy President Douglas Fairbanks Sr. It was the first Academy Award ceremony, taking place at a private dinner at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel on May 16th, honoring films from 1927 and 1928. Paramount's Wings from 1927 won Best Picture based on production. It was the only silent film to win an Oscar for Best Picture. A second Best Picture category for artistic merit, a category dropped the next year, was awarded to Sunrise from 1927. Emil Jennings and Janet Gaynor were the first Best Actor and Best Actress winners for multiple films. Therefore, Janet Gaynor was the first female performer to win an Academy Award at the age of 22. She was the youngest
Wow.
Best Actress winner for 5 decades until 21-year-old newcomer Marlee Matlin won the Oscar for Children of a Lesser God in 1986, which
Wow.
I am
Yeah.
super excited to check out her new documentary about Marlee Matlin. Has
Mhm.
not circled
Yeah.
around to New Jersey yet, but I know we talked a little bit about this last month, but it's interesting getting some of the details that they're like how we all sit around waiting for the nominees to be announced, and they're just like,
Mm.
"Here's the winners. Tune in
Yep.
3 months."
Hold the
Um,
press. Yeah.
and I like how they specifically put were presented quickly.
hmm
Mm.
I bet
Nobody's got time for that. You know,
this was like a
Yeah.
30-minute ceremony probably.
you
So,
need to keep it moving, Shane. Just like
It was like a graduation ceremony. Just whip them in, whip them out, shake
oh,
hands.
trust me, I know all about that. I read names at commencement at Rider University.
Huh.
So,
Oh, how do you
um,
go with that with pronunciation and stuff?
oh, I practiced for weeks.
You'd want to, wouldn't you? Yeah, yeah. It'd be
I
tough.
email every single student that I'm supposed to read and ask them to send me audio files saying their name
Oh,
so I could practice because I'm no
that's
nice.
chump.
cool.
But I do not talk fast. So, I do my best. But I do talk loud when I need to. Not today. I don't have that in me.
Nope.
Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
Next point we have actress Mary Pickford was first performer to conduct a marketing campaign for an Academy Award. See, she started this shit.
Yep.
Um, in the second year of its offering by inviting all the judges to her home for tea at her 22-room Fair mansion. Her ploy worked, and she actually won Best Actress honor, awarded in 1930 for her overly emotive performance in her first talkie, the melodramatic Cochette. Pickford and Fairbanks also starred together in the box office flop, The Taming of the Shrew, a misguided effort to bolster their stardom.
Mm. So this is where it
So,
started.
mhm,
Uh,
all over a cup of tea.
Hmm.
I
damn.
like how she has a 22 had a 22 room mansion, and it was named with
Wow.
her name part of it.
That
Pickfair.
that's how big she used to be at the time. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
Hmm.
she
Imagine
was one
Margot
of
Robbie
the
having a big estate called Robbie Land or something, right? It's kind of it's weird, right?
Apparently, there are rumors that she actually purchased like a house quite close to where I live, like in Scotland. So if one day you will see a selfie with me and Margot Robbie, it'll be quite cool. You know.
Hmm.
I was gonna
Huh?
guess that she got a
Oh,
ranch in
Margot
Australia
brought a
called
house
Robbie
in
Land.
Scotland.
Yeah, yeah. They apparently like her and her husband bought some like vacation home like an
Oh,
hour
yeah.
away from where I live. So like it's been
Okay.
kind of like a not officially confirmed, but it's like, I've seen it in a couple of publications online.
You're right.
And yeah, so I'm like, damn, imagine like I was talking to my girlfriend, I was like, imagine just us going for like a trip and like, hey, that kind of looks like Barbie.
Her parents still live down the road from me. Like she was born and raised in on the Gold Coast where I live. Out bush a little bit, but
Mm,
yeah. She went to
Nice.
my nephew went to the same school as her.
Well,
nice.
look at that.
Yeah.
So, Luke, maybe you'll see all the Academy people coming over for her Tea Party campaign.
Hopefully, they
Yeah.
are already. We already are buzzing that there are sites of Matt Damon, Zendaya filming in
Oh yeah.
Scotland because of for
Mm,
Odyssey. So they are
Yeah.
already like, there's this castle that's properly shut down for like 5, 6 weeks for anybody. So we all know what's happening there, but like nobody was like, oh yeah, no, 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 nothing's happening. But nobody can come here for 5 or 6 weeks. But we cannot confirm or deny. The Odyssey is being made right here.
Christopher Nolan is there.
Yep.
He's doing there in
Next,
Iceland too, right? Sorry,
yeah.
Shane.
Next up we got Fritz Lang's Woman in the Moon from 1929, or Frau im Mond, was the first film to show a countdown to the launch of a rocket. The scene also depicted the use of liquid rocket fuel, a rocket with two stages, and zero gravity in space.
Hmm.
Fritz Lang's just like, hold my beer, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm doing cool shit over here.
I'm just
Um,
gonna do me.
there you go. Next up, we have Hollywood released its first original backstage musical. It was MGM's first all talking picture and musical, The Broadway Melody, aka The Broadway Melody of 1929, a Best Picture Academy Award winner. It was the first sound film to win the award and the first musical with an original score. It was also the first musical to spawn a series of Broadway Melody sequels that stretched out to 1940. The final film starred Fred Astaire and Eleanor Powell. It was also one of the first musicals to feature Technicolor, two color, sequins, The Wedding of the Painted Doll, beginning a trend for other musicals to include color sequences. The musical film genre was born with the coming of sound films.
Nice. So we
Mm.
finally here, and we also have musicals now. That's
Yep.
pretty cool. Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
like unlike the last month where we had like silent musical, right? If I remember correctly, there was a movie that was like supposed to be musical, but it was a silent movie. I'm like, what?
You just got to pretend,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which
Imagine it.
I don't recall this particular film being a very beloved Best
Mhm.
Picture winner. I think it was
Mm.
just like, oh my God, you have music? And they're like,
Yeah,
here's
yeah.
Best Picture.
They can sing
Like,
now. They can sing
isn't
now.
that kind of how all that jazz won?
All that jazz is fucking amazing.
Is it?
Oh, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Did all that jazz win Best Picture?
I was gonna
It
say, I
won
don't think it
something.
won Best Picture though.
Won something, didn't it?
I think it was nominated heavily. See, this is yet again us like skewing away this podcast, like just like stopping in its tracks. Like, okay, let's talk about this movie.
Was that 78 or 79?
79, Shane, and it won 4 Oscars. I'm on IMDb. So art
Oh,
direction, costume design, film editing, and music.
That all makes
But it was
sense.
do you know
nominated
what
for
I
Best Picture and Director and all that. Yeah.
wasn't there? So what's that first?
The jazz singer.
The jazz singer is what I meant. Not all that jazz, the jazz singer. Anyway, obviously all
All that
that
jazz is
jazz
a
couldn't be the first Oscar winner because it was made in 1979
70.
or released.
Well, it
Bob
is a
Fosse.
Bob
Uh,
Fosse classic. But
yeah,
no, the
Great movie.
jazz singer,
I'm
I'm
blaming
pretty sure the
COVID.
only reason the jazz singer is remembered because it's like, oh look, Al Jolson sang a song. Oh look, he is
Yeah,
also in blackface.
that's
Yep.
yeah. As was the style at the time.
Yep.
Mhm.
As many musicals did, because you
Mm,
can't have black people sing music, but you can have
no.
white people dressed up as black people sing music. So there you
Mm,
go.
Mhm.
Director Eric von Stronheim. Last silent film Queen Kelly, starring Gloria Swanson, partial footage seen in Billy Wilder's Sunset Boulevard, also starring Swanson and von Stroheim, was not finished due to its expensive and elaborate production and disagreements between Swanson and the director. Producers also balked at the idea of completing it when the demand was increasing for sound films. Well,
Okay.
that's sad. It's
Uh,
just like, well,
mm.
nope, we're done. We're done here. Uh,
it
you
it's
know,
almost like, is it the equivalent of like writing the movie off for tax purposes? Warner
just
Brothers?
write it off.
Yeah.
Just
At least this one they
What
didn't
does
even
that even mean?
finish. So it wasn't like they had something to be able to show people.
mm,
This this isn't a Batgirl or a Coyote versus Acme situation where it's just like there was
Mm,
literally a movie that you could have shown us. But
mhm.
mm.
uh putting those taxes first, all the way back in 1929.
Which at least Coyote versus Acme we will actually get to see. Batgirl we
Yeah,
won't.
that
So,
Catch Up Entertainment spent $50 million.
Did
mm-hmm.
they?
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
Geez, I hope they
but
make triple it back.
they definitely wrote off these costs as a loss, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
That studio's like, yep, we're gonna write this off. This is interesting. 1925 musical was made into a Paramount feature film of the same name, Coconuts, featuring
Mm,
the Marx Brothers, their
mm.
first film. It was
Oh.
shot at Paramount Astoria Studios on Long Island.
So
I do
we
love
have
the Marx
Marx's
Brothers.
we have Marx Brothers now is also cool. I've only
Yeah.
seen Duck Soup, but I need to definitely like watch more of those.
I've
But I did
I've only
like
seen
Duck Soup.
Coconuts.
Oh,
Only seen
nice,
Coconuts.
Interesting.
nice.
I have a box set of their stuff. I didn't like
Hmm.
it. It bored the hell out of me. So I haven't gone back to the others.
Hmm.
Duck Soup, I find absolutely hilarious from start to
Mm,
finish. And it's only like
Yep.
70 minutes.
Yep.
And just,
right up my alley.
I want to watch uh Groucho Marx and Rodney Dangerfield just go back and forth throwing barbs at each other because they're the fastest talking comedians I think I've ever seen.
Throw Don Rickles in there for a Mexican standoff. That'd be amazing.
Oh my God.
Mm.
He goes through the throat every joke.
Yeah, he does, right?
No holds barred. Next up, we had the first full length modern sound, first 100% natural color, talking, singing, dancing picture, motion picture produced entirely in color, two strip Technicolor, directed by Alan Crosland's musical On with the Show. Premiered in New York City on May 28th, 1929. Note previously, The Chevalier, technically the first full length sound film completely in Technicolor, had only music and sound effects with silent title cards. The second
uh,
Technicolor talkie film was Gold Diggers of Broadway. Also from Warner Brothers. Unfortunately, the only existing prints of On with the Show were black and white.
Mm. Okay.
I wonder if
Hmm.
Jamie Foxx was also involved in Gold Diggers on Broadway.
She take my money.
Knowing
When
him,
I'm in
probably.
need.
Don't ask me to sing with this throat. Honestly, that was bad.
Yep. We're all on the struggle bus today. We're good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Next, we have the first important feature-length sound documentary was the German film Melodie der Welt, A Melody of the World. So, Germans doing all the cool stuff before the Germans did all the horrible stuff.
Yet again, yeah.
Um,
Technologia.
the
They
20s
had
were
the
a great
technology.
time for German cinema before the Nazis ruined it.
Hmm.
Um, The Eastman Kodak Company introduced its first motion picture film, 16 millimeter, designed especially for making the then new sound motion picture. So Kodak was at the forefront of the evolution of film early on. It's kind of sad that Kodak doesn't
Yeah.
exist anymore.
Hmm.
But
Mm. They do. Like there is Kodak stuff, but there's
But they're not
not
in
like
like
it
making
was.
movies, I guess. Like what?
They don't make
Yeah,
film anymore.
I
yeah.
thought Kodak went under bankruptcy. But
You can still buy Kodak products in Australia, like not film and stuff, but they have like like
Hmm.
those cheap cameras that you'd buy at Kmart or
Maybe they
what's
went
like
under.
Walmart.
Maybe they went under, but Australia hasn't caught up
Not
yet.
down under. They went down under. That's what they did. People can't
Kodak's
see you
still on.
laughing. I always say these jokes, and you guys, you just silently laugh. And people must think everything I say lands flat.
No.
Well, if I laugh too hard, I'm gonna sound like a smoker today. So,
I'm
um, but no, that
gonna look that up.
it's just like Kodak's been out of business in America for 15 years. The ripple
Well,
effect hasn't reached Australia yet. It's just like we
Yeah.
no,
still have inventory.
I know they went down, but no, you can buy Kodak cameras. Yeah, you can buy Kodak single-use cameras and that in Australia, and even
Hmm.
yeah,
There you go.
Okay.
digital cameras. Yeah, that's weird. Hey man, they even saw negative
Next,
film here. Sorry
Ooh.
to
hmm,
make us on.
fancy. Now, with the school's launch in 1929, USC became the first university in the country to offer a Bachelor of Arts in Film. The school's founding faculty included Douglas Fairbanks,
Hmm.
D.W. Griffith,
Hmm.
William C. DeMille,
Hmm.
Ernst Lubitsch,
Wow.
Irving Thalberg, and Daryl Zanuck, amongst others.
Yeah, that's massive.
Basically, you're just missing like Charlie Chaplin,
And
uh,
Mary Pickford.
Mary Pickford, and like Buster Keaton, and you have all of and Clara Bow, and you have all who is
Wow.
who
Yeah.
in like modern like that day Hollywood.
That's wild.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you imagine just showing up? It's just like, I'm ready for my first class, Mr. DeMille.
I feel like it
Yeah.
would be the same as like today you showed up to a film class, and your tutors would be like Steven Spielberg,
Nolan,
Christopher Nolan,
Tarantino,
Quentin Tarantino, like like Ridley Scott, like like, and the list
Jerry
goes on. It's
Bruckheimer.
like
Yeah.
David Fincher. It's like wow, that's a
You show
slate.
up
Yeah.
to NYU and Spike Lee teaches you.
Spike Lee,
Yeah.
of
Well, he
course.
does
Like
that, doesn't he?
no,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that could
He is
That is
actually
sick.
happen to you.
he is
Guess
So
and
look at
there you
look
go.
at all these future makers. They're going to have so many rolling dolly shots in their films. You wait and see.
There you go.
Hmm.
MGM's and director King Vidor's all black musical Hallelujah, shot on location, introduced post synchronization to filmmaking. It was also the first sound era film with an all black cast to be produced by a major studio. The action was originally shot without sound, which was later added in the studio as a separately recorded soundtrack containing both naturalistic and impressionistic effects.
Mm.
Hmm.
very
That is
interesting that like an all black cast is still kind of novel in 2025. I guess unless it's like Tyler Perry movie.
Look, I think one of my main educations is going through this history of cinema is that pre the 40s, it was a very egalitarian business.
Yeah.
Like everyone was included. Like there was a lot of female directors, female
Mhm.
megastars, and it was just. But all of a sudden, there was just like all these white men were like, there's money to be had. There's gold in them their heels. Let's take ownership of it and run everyone else out and ostracize everyone else to the point that it's only white men telling stories.
Mhm.
It's pretty evil shit, actually.
They're like, there's money in the banana stand, and they get rid of everybody else.
Yeah.
There is
I
always money
love
in
it.
banana stand. Yes, Michael.
Arrested Development references are always going to win with me. It's great.
That's exactly what happened. They're like, there's money in
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
Mm.
and just like
yeah.
push everybody else out. It's like, no, our money. Um, the enthusiastic public demand to see more movies with sound. Theaters rushed to install sound equipment. Movie attendance increased to 110 million, almost doubled the movie attendance in 1927. The independent studios couldn't compete as successfully with the four major studios Fox, MGM, Paramount, and Warner's in the production of sound film.
Mm.
So I guess this was kind
Okay.
of like when the herd started thinning out and it really
Yep.
became the major studios making most of the movies,
Mm.
which is very interesting that only two of these are their own companies still. And to be frank, one of
Well,
them might not be
the
because
history of
I
all
don't.
businesses is that the big corporate players will come in and kick out the mum and pop stores, right?
Yep,
That's just the same as cinema. Yeah.
Mm.
this
And
is
then
capitalistic natural selection.
there's a big
So
problem with cinema at the moment is everything's a factory product. Everything's on a conveyor belt. Um, it's all very meticulous in its design, and there's no art behind it anymore. And I think that started back in those times, to be honest.
it was funny because it almost felt like a conveyor belt because they were like
Yeah.
assembly line. They're like, we need to get 40 films out this week.
Yeah, 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 and they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, live or die, they did it, and
Uh-huh.
yeah,
But let's just look at the scoreboard. Fox is owned by Disney, MGM's owned by Amazon. Paramount
yeah.
is struggling to stay afloat on its
Comcast,
own.
isn't it?
And
Uh-huh.
and yeah, Paramount's owned by Viacom.
Viacom. Comcast must own Universal then. Sorry.
Yep. Mhm.
Yeah.
And then Warner is about to have a split, I guess, with
Yes.
Discovery. So
Yeah. Does that mean we lose Discovery from Max?
I think so. And
That's
Zasloff is
gonna
sticking
suck
with the
nuts.
Warner part. It's just like, son of a bitch.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Zaslav should be. I love. I don't know if you guys have seen the clips of him not getting his pay rise and or his bonuses. They actually gave him a pay cut.
Oh, nice.
couldn't
Yeah.
happen to a better person.
I was
Yep.
gonna
Um,
say, like, I'm so
He
sad
was
for
he was
him.
he was he was scheduled to get like millions of dollars in bonuses, even though the
Mhm.
company
like
lost 80
50
million. And
million
the,
or
Yep.
yeah,
something
and the
wild like
shareholders
that.
are like, "Fuck you, Jack. You ain't getting nothing. You don't deserve to get a
It's,
bonus when we lose money."
Mhm.
screw you, guy.
Hmm.
Um, Walt Disney Productions was formed in 1929. So
Mm.
everybody else be warned, the House of Mouse is here.
Yeah.
Mickey
Wow.
Mouse's first words were spoken in his ninth cartoon short, The Carnival Kid, when he said the words "hot dogs."
Huh.
So, and Walt voiced Mickey originally. So there you
Hmm.
go.
So meaningful. So deep.
Hot dogs.
Yeah.
I had a hot dog yesterday, wrapped in a pretzel.
See, it all comes
What?
together.
How do you do that?
Amish.
What?
Yeah,
Amish? They.
I went to a farmer's market and they had a Pennsylvania Dutch like
Hmm.
Amish section and they had cheesesteaks and pretzels. They had hot dogs and pretzels. And I'm just like, and they were like, the cheesesteak was 4.25. I'm
Is
like,
that cheap? Is that expensive? That's cheap, right?
no. I'm like, did I like teleport back to the year 2000 for like 2
Give
seconds?
me 10.
I'll buy a dozen.
That's the
Yeah.
that's the non-price gouging price.
Mhm.
That's
Did you feel?
the
Mhm.
that was the Amish people don't give a crap about your capitalism. They're
Did
like,
you feel like
"We'll
you were
take
in
Yeah.
a?
425 for this."
Yeah. Did you feel like you were in a Amish paradise?
I could rap every single word of that song if you wanted me to.
Of course you can.
I was actually thinking
Now,
about Weird in the shower, and I was like, I need to watch Weird again. I don't even know why I was thinking about it, especially in
That's
the
a
shower.
that's
I
I was
want
gonna
to
say that's a
rewatch that
weird
so
place.
bad.
Yeah, it was a
That's a
weird
weird
place.
place to think about weird, but hey, I'm not gonna king shame.
I'm also on the hype train to get Weird Al Yankovic as the halftime show for the Super Bowl.
Oh, how cool
Oh
would
yeah.
that be?
It'd
That would
be
be
the
amazing.
greatest. It'd be the greatest halftime show, second to Prince, in the history of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat that Prince one. It literally
Yeah,
rained
man.
when he played Purple Rain. I'm like,
What a
Yeah.
you can't
legend.
even write that shit.
Even
So
God was even God was like, yes, let's rain.
Yeah.
we have Alfred Hitchcock's Blackmail was the first sound film and UK's first full-length talking picture and featured one of the earliest cameo appearances, a custom that would become a regular feature of his films.
Yeah.
We have Soviet director Zega Vertov, the man with a movie camera, which we'll be talking about momentarily, a quintessential experimental avant-garde film, and an excellent example of city symphony documentary, was regarded as pure visual cinema. Um,
It's
its
Marty.
views of Moscow, Kiev, Odessa, and of Soviet workers and machines contains radical hyper editing techniques, special visual effects, wild juxtapositions of images, and double exposures. We're not going to talk
Mm.
about that now. We'll be talking about that momentarily. And
Yeah.
we
Mhm.
have a couple here. Robin Mamouline's musical drama Applause, one of the earliest Hollywood musicals during the first full year of sound pictures, was a liberating, innovative, breakthrough film at a time of static and stultified filmmaking with bulky, immobile cameras on sound stages. He introduced a revolutionary camera technique, including rhythmically moving and inventive shots and the use of two cameras at the same time, and experiments with sound, use of overlapping and interlacing soundtracks, sound cues, auditory montages, and background noise. I hope this isn't a lost film, so because now I'm like, I kind of
Mm.
want to check this out.
Hmm.
Sounds interesting. Yeah.
We have silent screen star John Gilbert's first sound film was His Glorious Night. It was a disastrous talkie debut for Gilbert. Audience laughed at his inappropriately sounding high-pitched voice in his role as a romantic hero. The common occurrence of stars having difficulty transitioning to talkies was immortalized in Singing in the Rain.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, look how sexy he looks. Hi, everybody.
Hot dogs. Uh,
Hot dogs.
Hey,
Actually,
Nikki.
this transition of ours, like honestly, since the start of this episode, I've been thinking I need to watch Babylon again because that epitomized that time so well. I don't know what you guys think of Babylon, but I think it's massively underrated. I think it's
I think it's
an
great.
amazing film. Yeah.
Hmm.
Honestly, my biggest complaint about it was you probably could have leaned it out like 15, 20 minutes. But besides that, like,
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
I thought it was entertaining for what it was. That whole Toby Maguire sequence and all that
Yeah.
wild shit was just like,
Well,
what the hell am I watching?
that's yeah, that was a direct rip-off from Boogie Nights, right? That's that scene. That's a
I
That's
didn't
why he
think.
gave
when
that,
Yeah,
except
gonna go.
weirder.
yeah, it's just dialed up a little bit more.
I feel like that sequence had to be there for you to actually understand how in serious that business could have gotten, and
Mm,
how, you know, if you dance with the devil boy, sometimes he'll follow you back, as we just seen in the Sinners. And yeah, if you
Yeah,
dance with
yeah.
the devil for too long,
Mm.
Toby Maguire shows up. It's like,
They should have just had Toby Maguire be the vampire in Sinners. Can you imagine?
he would actually nail it. Like, if you
Oh,
imagine him in
Toby's
that
good.
role, like he
Hmm.
would fucking nail it. But like the actor who did it, he also nailed it. So
Hmm.
I am pretty high on Babylon. I'm not quite
Hmm.
Aaron Schweitzer high on Babylon. That
Hmm.
was a fun conversation when
mm,
Aaron tried to get all of Babylon votes on that, like our reimagining of the Oscars, and
ah.
Alice was having
Uh,
none of it.
Oh yeah, Alice hates it.
That
yes,
was
yeah, Alice is not a fan of Babylon.
Mm-mm.
that's always a fun 4.5 hours of my life every year. Um, it's a long recording.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, really?
got two more here. Dorothy Arzner directed The Wild Party. It was a 24-year-old star, Clara Bowes, Hollywood's Whoopee Girl. First talkie, a tale about jazz age youth in a collegiate picture that was exceedingly popular at the time. In the film, she played the part of a wild and sexy student who became involved with one of her young professors, Friedrich March, at Winston College for Women. Clara Bow's sound career as an actress was soon doomed. I'm just going to put this out here. If you're going to have a college for all women, and I'm assuming it's because you don't want them to be, you know, messing around with guys, why would you have male professors then?
Because of course they would never go for a Professor Shane. Like,
But, yeah, that's
in
inappropriate.
what world would that happen? Oh,
Every frickin' day.
I know.
There you go.
Because
And
those who make those who write the rules are those they're the ones in power, right? So professors are like, nah, just a female school would be
yes,
fine.
all the white men that started these women's colleges are like, we don't want any competition from age appropriate guys.
Mm.
We want them all to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
So
yeah.
there you go. And a last note, by the end of the decade, the film careers of many silent film stars ended due to their voices being unsuitable for the new medium, or due to the fact that their voices didn't match their public image. Others, however, such as Greta Garbo, the comedy team of Laurel and Hardy, successfully adapted the sound.
Nice.
What do you mean my
It's
voice
interesting
doesn't
that.
match?
That's interesting, right? How many? I wouldn't think that many of them would have bad enough voices.
Not even, I don't think bad enough. It's just like, it's like with you reading a book and then you finally see the movie adaptation of it because you always have something in your head and then you see the
Like, that's
movie and
not
it's
the
like,
voice I had.
yeah, exactly. And it's like that's not how I imagined. And it's like imagine like watching this
Mm,
actor or actress for like
mm,
5 6 years, and then
yeah.
finally there's a sound, and suddenly, like like imagine let's say this guy looks all macho man and is like, "Hey everybody!" It's like, what the
You,
fuck?
you can, well, I can imagine a few, but not that many would be,
Hmm.
it seems
Well,
strange.
maybe because they got into silent films, they're like, nobody will ever hear my mousy voice.
Like
Hmm.
maybe like so Howard Stern, why he got into radio and not TV,
Hmm.
you know.
You have a face for radio.
Hey
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why we
I'm
podcast,
just
right?
Yes.
imagining like one of the sex symbols lines up her first musical, and it's like, nobody knows. It's just that scene from Spaceballs. There you go. So we got some box office for you. I actually found they started recording top 10
Oh,
box
nice.
office films. So we're going to run through this very quickly. At
Sweet.
number 10, The Hollywood Review of 1929 made $1.527 million for MGM. Number 9, The Desert Song from Warner Brothers made $1.549 million. 8, Showboat from Universal made $1.643 million. 7, Say It with Songs from Warner Brothers made $1.715 million. 6, On with the Show that we talked about. Warner Brothers made $1.741 million. And number 5 is Rio Rita from RKO, which made $1.775 million. And we have 4 films cracked $2 million. We have at number 4, Sunny Side Up from Fox made $2.19 million. And another film we talked about, number 3, Gold Diggers of Broadway, from Warner Brothers made $2.54 million. 2, The Cockeyed World from Fox made 2.7. And at number 1, the Best Picture and highest grossing film of the year, The Broadway Melody from MGM made $2.8 million.
Wow.
So back when, Best Picture was won by, movies that made a lot of money too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, doesn't happen anymore.
I remember when The Hurt Locker won Best Picture, and it's just like, this is the lowest grossing picture to ever win Best Picture.
Yep, especially compared to like there was the year of Avatar, and I'm
Yeah,
like, wow.
it
Yeah, I didn't
literally
know that
beat the
about
highest
Hurt Locker.
grossing film of all time, not adjusted for inflation. Because
Mhm.
if you do adjust for inflation, it is actually Gone with the Wind.
I
It's still
thought it
the
was great.
highest grossing film of all time.
I thought it was great with Hurt Locker up against Avatar because they were, ex
Yes,
husband and
Catherine
Catherine
wife
Bigelow.
is the
Bigelow
words I'm
beat
looking for. Yeah.
beat her ex
But
James
Jimmy.
Cameron.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's why
Jimmy
they
didn't
made
deserve it for Avatar though.
Yeah, that's why they made Tina Fey and Amy Poehler like, a couple of years later with Zero Dark 30. They made a joke like, if it comes to torture, I'm gonna trust the lady who was married to James Cameron for a couple of years. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a joke. That's a good
That is a
joke.
good joke,
It's
yeah.
like, damn.
Yep.
So, looking at the Academy Awards, I'm only
Mm.
going to go through the 3 major categories, which are Outstanding Picture, Best Actor, and Best Actress. So, for Outstanding Picture, we had The Patriot, not to be confused with the Roland Emmerich Mel Gibson, The Patriot. We had The Hollywood Review, In Old Arizona, Alibi, and the winner, The Broadway Melody. Have either of you seen any of these?
Nope.
Nope.
Nope, me neither. So
No.
we're on the same page.
I feel as
I
bad now.
I have just heard that the Broadway Melody has like no story and it's just a bunch of musical numbers,
Mm.
and I'm like, that doesn't surprise me.
Mm.
So next up, we have Best Actor. We had Lewis Stone for The Patriot, Paul Muni for The Valiant, Chester Morris for Alibi, George Bancroft for Thunderbolt, and winner Warner Baxter for In Old Arizona. I'll say it right this time.
Nice.
But I haven't seen any of these performances, so I don't really have anything to add here. Actually, I think I've only really heard of one of them. Paul Muni, I think is the only actor that I've really actually recognized out of this group.
Which
Mhm.
Oscars you're talking about the 1930 Oscars? Yeah.
Yes, for
Yeah,
films
yeah,
from
okay.
1929. Yep.
Yep.
Sorry, yes. Yeah.
See, that's the fun thing.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about the awards for the actual year the movies came
Yeah,
out
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'm just a bit
because
slow.
that's okay. We all are today.
Yes.
Um, maybe all of you out there are too. So join on the party. Um, and then the Best Actress actually had 6 nominees: Bessie Love for The Broadway Melody, Corinne Griffith for The Divine Lady, Je- uh, Jean Eagles for The Letter, Betty Thompson for The Barker, Ruth Chatterton for Madam X, and our Tea Party Queen, Mary Pickford, won for Cochette because,
Mm.
you know, she did that tea party, got those
It must have been one
votes.
hell of a tea party.
Campaigning from the very
I like
beginning.
how you could do this, but then Andrea Riseborough, everybody got mad because some of her friends were like posting
Yeah.
on social media, you should check out Andrea's performance.
Yeah,
They
too much
weren't
sleep.
wrong though. She's great in that film.
Yeah, that's the thing. She's a really talented actor and
Oh,
just
she
basically just
actually is,
flies
yeah.
under the radar in most things. But like,
Because she
I
doesn't
I
look the
just
same. She's such a chameleon. She
Yep.
Oh
looks
yeah,
completely different in everything she does. I never know it's her until after I've read the credits.
correct.
Well,
Like
rewatching Birdman for my retrospective show with Jeff a couple months ago, I'm just like, holy shit, it's
yep,
Andrea Riseborough
she sure is
who
there.
just
She's in
lays.
sorry. Sorry.
I was just gonna say who lays that smooch on Naomi Watts, and just
Mm.
like,
Mm.
what were you gonna say,
Yeah.
Adam?
Oh no, now I'm just fantasizing about kissing Naomi Watts. Anyway, now she's in a British movie, a comedy movie called Mindhorn, with
Mm.
Julian Barrett, the guy from The Mighty Boosh, and
Nice.
it's a dumb funny, like it's not a very well rated movie, but I love stupid comedy. I think it's great. And that was one I was watching her, and I was like, this woman's amazing. And then I look at it, it was Andrea Riseborough. I'm like, holy shit, no wonder she's amazing, because
Mhm.
it's Andrea Riseborough. Yeah, spun me out.
See, now I'm spiraling on threads there because Jess and I watched that Knuckles spin-off show for the first
Oh yeah.
time,
Hmm.
and Julian Barrett had a whole entire like dream musical number. That episode of Knuckles had no right to go as hard as it did.
I need to watch that.
And I'm just like, this is what you get when you mix Sonic the Hedgehog with the Mighty Boosh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there you go. Alrighty. So I know this year in particular, 1929, is a light year for me in terms of films that I've watched. And
Mhm.
honestly, it doesn't seem like a particularly like great
Mhm.
year for movies that have
Mhm.
really stood the test of time and lasted. Most of the films that I've watched from this year were from my John Ford series
Mm.
because
Mm.
Yeah.
so many goddamn John Ford movies. Um, but to me, honestly, if I had to pick the top film from 1929, it's going to be Man with a Movie Camera.
Yeah.
Um, after watching
Same.
this,
Just
which
just because it's only the only one movie of this year I've seen. I was like, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
so I need to go back to 1929 and watch a few more.
yeah, because I've watched The Black Watch, which is a John Ford film, The Jazz Full, which is an animated a short film, The Skeleton Dance animated short film, The Spooky Scary Skeletons came out
Yeah.
in 1929. An Andalusian Dog, that like very provocative avant-garde short film, which still haven't processed that. I have seen Coconuts.
Yeah.
I've seen Blackmail. That was pretty high up there. The Hitchcock film, and then The General Line, which honestly I did really enjoy. It's just that they all kind of paled in comparison once I
Mhm.
watched Man with a Movie Camera. But I think this is a nice segue into us getting into our actual discussion of our film. A man travels around a city with a camera slung over his shoulder, documenting urban life with dazzling invention. And did not expect this to be a documentary
Mhm.
going in, but this 68-minute film is bold. Like,
Yeah.
this is just something I did not expect. But I guess we'll go around the horn. Adam, what were your general thoughts on Man with a Movie Camera?
Um, it's pretty astounding to be honest. For a film without a narrative, it's really. I mean, a couple of notes I took, and it's bigger and better than this, but it kind of was like it brought me back to a time when my brother. I have to make this comparison, sorry. My brother was in high school, and when video cameras were first a thing, and he brought it home, and him and his mates were just walking around with a video camera and filming and experimenting stuff. That's what this felt like, even though these guys are better than student filmmakers, it
Yep.
feels like. But that's what they were doing. They were just taking images and then experimenting with the medium, with all those things you mentioned before about the dual exposures. And what stood out to me the most really is more than just the images and how they kind of managed to get some astounding shots and even some behind the scenes, because it really should be called a man with two cameras, because you see them filming and other reactions. It's that was the highlight of the film for me. But I really lost the point I was trying to say because I sidetracked myself. But it's long story short, it's great. It reminded me of a few things. It also reminded me of a film called La Jetée, which is a French short film of basically the inspiration for 12 Monkeys,
Yep.
which is basically just a series of photographs with a guy narrating over the top of them about life, effectively. Um, but that's what this film does. It is just slice of life. Like it's filming people on the beach, it's filming people on the streets and trams. It films a dude who's got hit in the head and it's an emergency and an ambulance has come out. It's a really good insight into how they lived back then, which was, not dissimilar to today in reality, except for the technology. But yeah, it was a really engaging watch. I watched a version on YouTube which actually had a really cool score to it. Like it was really kind of, I don't know, I was vibing with it pretty good, to be honest. So I wasn't picking up my phone and things like that. Like I was really interested in everything I saw. So, yeah, clearly a very influential film and something I would recommend cinephiles check out for sure.
How about you, Luke?
So this is like one of those movies you always hear about as one of those like, oh yeah, if you're a cinephile, you need to watch this movie, right?
Mm,
And like because of that, like I've always been slightly quote unquote afraid of it because it's like, oh, it will feel like a homework maybe, all that stuff. But it just was so playful. Like it's like
mm,
I didn't mind the fact there's no narrative. I didn't mind the
yeah.
fact that there's no protagonist or story or anything like that. And I just was immersed in that world full of interesting shots, like exposures. There's quite a few scenes with like a cool stop motion animation. Well, I guess
Yeah.
it's not an animation, but it's stop motion,
Yep.
and I absolutely love this movie. Like it gelled with me the way like I feel not great right now because we are all sick. So I thought like, oh, this is not gonna be fair to this movie watching it right now in my state of mind because I don't really want to. But I absolutely loved it. So I'm like, wow, this is like extraordinary. And like it is a cinephile's like wet dream, but it never feels like a homework. It feels like there's a text in the beginning. It's like, oh yeah, we want to explore the universality of cinema, and I think this is a great thought especially back in 1929, because like
Mm,
cinema is universal, and it just goes to show that if you think of this art form slightly differently, you can figure out a way how to show something totally different to what your contemporaries like were doing at the time. So like I absolutely loved it. What about you, Shane?
This was something that was such a fascinating experience to watch. And I think one of my favorite things about going back and watching older films is watching a film and just being like, they could do this shit back then.
Yeah.
And that's basically this movie for 68 minutes.
yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
how was this made in 1929?
Mm,
And realizing that there's a technical prowess here that's
yeah.
unmatched.
Yeah.
And from the opening where it's just like you set up this theater and all these seats are like
Yeah.
opening up
Mm,
themselves, and
mm.
I'm just like,
Very
wait,
Miyazaki, like actually.
wait a minute. And it really sets the stage for something really impressive. And this film has energy.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Hmm.
it's so interesting because I'm gonna go on a little tangent here about editing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
Oh.
too many people are transfixed on what they think editing means.
Mm,
And it's how can a movie that's 3.5 hours be greatly edited? That's not what editing's about.
You mean
no.
Obviously,
Brutalist?
that's
No.
part of it,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
cutting it down. But like editing can be used for storytelling.
Correct.
Absolutely.
For the
Yeah.
Like,
flow.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the flow of the story and how it goes. And like you only need to watch one Edgar Wright film to realize what editing really can be.
Yep.
Because like all the
Yeah.
sight gags that he does with his editing and all that
Hmm.
energy, I wouldn't be surprised if like he watched this at some point when he was younger and realized like this is the kind of stuff that I can do because this shows so many great juxtapositions, layering of shots. Like,
Hmm.
it's a very abstract one, but it's that shot of the man with the movie camera on top of a movie camera because they
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
layered it like that.
Yep.
yeah,
And it's evocative. It's just like, I don't know why this seems such like an interesting shot, but it is.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what this film is. I don't know why this is all so interesting. It is. And it is
Yes,
because all
yeah,
of it is done so precisely, like these melding of shots. And like, I think I'm trying to think of, I'm going through all the images on IMDb just to like try to refresh myself on some of these shots, but like there's these like juxtaposed eyes at
Mm-hmm.
certain points. There's the point where it's just like the camera's on a truck, and it's just like
yeah.
going through the streets at
Yeah.
regular speed, and you're just like, we're on for a ride. And it seems so many of these things seem so simple,
Yeah.
but when you put them all into motion like this, it's like a symphony of cinematic expression.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is. Like, you're not going to go and watch this movie to be like, you know what? I felt for these characters.
Mm-hmm.
I loved this story.
Mm.
It's like, this is not what this is about.
Mm-mm.
I think this film's particularly moving because if you do have an appreciation for filmmaking and you sit and watch this and you're just like, it's inspiring that this movie probably didn't have a huge budget. It was just some guys with some cameras and
Yeah.
going out and shooting all of these things, and they made something that is 68 minutes, has lasted 96 years,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
is still talked about today. And I think that's
Yeah.
really impressive.
Well,
Well,
to your
it's
point. Oh, sorry. Only go now.
oh, sorry. Look, oh, I just wanted to teeter off Shane talking about the editing because my final note is the editing though. Like it's incredible. Even the scene of them showing the editing of them processing the film and
Oh
editing it,
yeah.
and then there was then there was the still shots of the kids, and then they would immediately go into what that actually looked like in
Mm-hmm.
motion, and that was incredible. It was so smooth. There was so many examples of that in this film, and even the timing of the shots. Like some shots would be on screen for a second, 2 seconds. Some would linger for five or more, and the way they would stitch those in, but still make it make sense, even though
Mm-hmm.
it's just really there's nothing to make sense of. They would just make sense. Like there was scenes on the beach, and there was that half a second clip of that birth, which I was like, holy shit, I didn't need to see
Yep.
that. But it quickly moved on and I forgot about it until now. But it was just full of those type of things. Yeah, impressive. Like
Mm-hmm.
just yeah, re-editing. Impressive.
Mm-hmm. No, I
Sorry,
was
Luke.
just gonna mention to your point, Shane, about Edgar Wright. So this is
Mm.
on his. There's a list like Edgar Wright's like
Oh
1,000
yeah.
favorite movies.
Yeah.
This is on there, so he's definitely seen it and he definitely loves it.
Yeah.
So you're right. And to your other point about just juxtaposition, see, like I love how you're talking about the literal one, and I was thinking of the like story. Like yes, there's no story, but there is kind of a story of life. We see, like Adam mentioned, that we
Yes.
see a birth,
Yep.
and then a couple of scenes later, we see this like funeral. We see a scene at the like this like a marriage registry where there's like a happy couple about to be married, and a couple of scenes later we see a divorce registry where this unhappy couple is finalizing their divorce. So that
Yeah.
I think that's why this document stands above them all, like in a way that yes, there is not not a narrative per se, but there is some. So those scenes, because if those scenes were just random scenes cut together, they wouldn't have worked. But there is like a through line of this is life. Like like this
Yeah.
reminded me of, is it City Lights of with Charlie Chaplin,
Mm-hmm.
or is it, because there's also like a like a man helping the machine and it's also part of the machine kind of thing, and
Modern
it's like
times.
yeah, oh sorry, Modern Times. So it was Modern
Yep.
Times, yeah. So it's that reminded me of that Chaplin movie as well because it has similar kind of themes, even though there's no narrative. but you can see like, you know, them oiling up those machines. You see that, you know, at one point the woman just like folding the boxes really fast as if like she is a machine.
Oh, the cigarettes
So
boxes. Yeah.
yeah. So it's like I I think there is like a basically like, you know, this was shot over the 3 years.
In
Like
four
three,
cities, 3 cities as well.
yeah, in 4 cities, three of them
Four
now
cities
are no
in
longer
Ukraine.
Russian. Three of them
Yeah.
are now Ukrainian. So,
Yeah.
and it should stay like that. You know, just
Yes.
saying.
It will stay like that. Yeah.
Just saying. But also, what I was gonna say. Yeah, no, it's like so it was shot in over 3 years, and I feel like the more you go back to this movie, the more you notice there is a through line of, for as cliche as it sounds, of life. Hey, this is how this life is. This is how, you know, you wake up, you need to go to your work, you need to do this, you need to do this. You might get married, you might die, you might give birth. This is what life is about. And I think he was trying to capture the universality of all of our existence. And for in 68 minutes, that's a bold task.
Now I just
You
want
know,
to put Ewan McGregor's little speech from Train Spotting across
Choose
top
life.
of this.
choose life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I kind of talk about how if you did watch this back in 29, you would be watching this and marveling at the technical aspects of it. Like, holy crap, how did they do this with this new medium? Blah, all the stuff they're doing, like, it'd be really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
But today we watch it nearly 100 years later, and we, even though we're marveling at the technical prowess because it was 1929,
Mm-hmm.
um, but really, my main thing that kept me engaged and wanting to keep watching was just seeing how they lived back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seeing
Mm.
those little snippets, especially in a foreign country. Like it would have been very similar watching it, whether it was filmed in Germany, France, Australia, or LA at that time. Would still have been very similar. People do the same shit no matter where they are. It's just slight differences. That's what drew me to it more, I suppose. What, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is that that's how art just keeps living on because it means something at different times whenever you're watching it. Like it's not always there for the same thing or the same purpose. It's never going to
Mm-hmm.
mean the same thing.
Nope.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
comedies are the worst or worst and best if you know when it comes to like, you know, comedies reflect their time for better or
Mm,
worse. You know, so then that's
yeah.
why when you go back to comedies from 60s, 70s, 80s,
Yeah.
there are some questionable things being said, done,
Yep.
displayed.
Hmm.
well, and especially if your comedy is very pop culture heavy,
Yep.
like
Yeah.
you're not gonna get
They
the
do age
reference.
themselves. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, will kids in the future also think the night sequence from Shrek 2 is one of the funniest things ever created? Maybe
Probably
not, because
not.
they might not know who OJ Simpson is and that he drove a white Bronco.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
and it's just one of those things where I'm glad that you reinforced this point, Adam, because yes, this film works on a cinematic experience, but true to, I think this was your point, Luke, but the idea that if these were just a bunch of random shots together, wow, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
like, this does really capture life, and does it, I think, in an interesting way, because if you think contextually, this is towards the very beginning of the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
Hmm.
like, it's still within what the first 10 years of
Yep.
the Soviet Union existing, and this is Soviet life.
Yeah.
And being able to see all these experiences, and what's more powerful, the differences or the similarities? And I think the
Hmm.
similarities of showing that we all live a human life
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and experience the human condition is important. You know, I, well, also dating things. I'm about to say it's like they had typewriters. I know what a typewriter is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, you know, kids in like 20 years
I
probably
learned
won't
to
know what
I learned to type on a typewriter when I
me
did it.
too.
Yeah.
But like those kinds of things where it's just like birth and death, marriage, divorce,
Yeah.
these are all things we all deal with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, and people working and people living. And then you have like the bold shots of like going down that street where it's like
Oh
tilting
yeah,
in on
it just
itself.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. It is kind
And
of it is a universal film in that I don't know if you guys picked up the same, but it doesn't really tell you where it is. There's nothing
Except
that highlights it's obliquely Russian or
except
anything, right?
everything is in Russian. Like everything is in
Yeah,
Cyrillic. Yeah, but
but
besides
I
that,
mean, if it
yes.
wasn't in that, it could be like
Correct.
Shane was saying, it could be anywhere.
Yes.
well, and I think that's the important point of this is that it can be anywhere, it can be anybody. It's all of us living life.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate all the cinematography because there are very intimate shots, which still at that point, intimacy with the camera was not very common.
Yep.
Mm.
The Passion of Joan of Arc was still like something that was significant because it really leaned on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like grand scale shots of like really capturing like I'm looking at one of them, this giant just there's has to be hundreds of quote unquote extras, like people just walking around
Mm-hmm.
in these spaces, or the deep focus of like here's the camera up here, but then it's a whole entire city in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is
Mm.
blocked and framed perfectly. It's really impressive. And it's very human experience, but it's also a very artful cinematic experience. And that's even hard to balance today.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something that's really impressive. Just a couple other quick shots, like him with the camera on top of that bridge
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
was really cool. Or the person laying down on the railroad tracks, that train coming
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And it's just thinking in the back of your head, one wrong thing happens.
No, what I
It's
loved
like
was the shot, like I think it's towards the end, where you see the shot of the entire city again. But this time he's in like a top right corner as if he is standing above the city with his camera, almost to this like godlike level. And in that way it's almost like he tries to position himself, the cameraman, the man with the camera, right? He it seemed to me like he's trying to position himself in like unusual places, but he always it's almost playful. And then there's a stop motion of the camera almost like dancing, just the camera alone, like almost like dancing and having fun for the fun's sake. And I'm like, this is so like adorable in a way, but also so cool. Where like this is a like I would say this is like essential pure like cinematic experience, but I feel like even your quote unquote normies would still get some kick out of that because it's kind of funny, it's kind of playful. It's not like, yeah, you're gonna be depressed for 2.5 hours in black and white. Enjoy.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is this is cinema.
what we have been doing to Adam multiple times on this show.
Poor Adam.
Yeah,
Do
poor
we have
man.
any other thoughts on Man with a Movie Camera?
No, I think I've said enough. You could keep pointing out some of the shots, but
Mhm.
it's just too easier to say just check it out for yourself at this point.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, great movie, watch it, or sacrifice the 68 minutes, and yeah, I don't think you will regret watching it.
Mm.
It's still shorter than most HBO show episodes.
Yep.
So there you go at this point. But we made it. We're all alive with debatable health. But we made it through this episode. Hopefully you all enjoyed this and some of our tangents and fever dream comments, and but it was a fun ride. And next month
Yeah.
we will be taking a look at The Blue Angel from 1930 as we begin a new decade here. This will be our third decade
Wow.
together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Doing this as we started in the teens together. You both missed out on all those fun wild things from very, very early cinema.
Hmm.
On the
Um,
aughts.
that were like on average 10 minutes. But
Huh.
thank you all for listening. From Adam and Luke and I, we all appreciate you tuning in and listening to the show. Make sure to like, comment, and share on the episode. Did you have any particular favorite documentaries that kind of just capture the life that's around us? Make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. We have all kinds of different shows on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network and so many great different types of content. But if you love movies and talking about movies, the three of us have plenty for you to go check out. And if you want to join the crew as either a podcaster yourself and start your own show or be a guest, be our guest, make sure to reach out to us on our website, to our fearless leader, Mike Hilty. And if you like our logo, my buddy Joe did a great job with this, so you should go check out his work. And most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Cinematic Wasteland here on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network.